Hi. I guess I should start off by saying that, first of all, I've learned a lot in SM 360, and this definitely opened my eyes to lots of major issues. And going off of the original question for this exam, what kind of future impact can I make in sports? As you have taught us, sports isn't perfect. As with anything, there's always going to be flaws that need to be changed. And I believe the biggest issue that really impacted me was girls playing sports. And as I saw today with many presentations, and I saw with being taught, is that girls are still very unequal in terms of pay, in terms of playing a sport, even not even having the ability to play sport, unlike males. And I had to think about it for a while, and it kind of resonated with me on many issues in terms of women playing sports, especially with low-income families. Growing up, I never had the ability to play as much as the other athletes in my class. I was the only athlete in my family of 4. None of my siblings played sports. My mom grew up in a small town, 6 of 16 kids, 6 of 16. Wanted to play basketball in Indiana, never could. She couldn't afford it. She had 2 dresses to wear. Extremely poor. Farm life. My dad is Native American, and growing up, he never had any opportunities, even though he was very athletic. And he grew up in South Carolina, where he was adopted, and he was the only Native American in the school. Because at the time it was just African Americans and Caucasians. He never really went athletic, but he went to ROTC instead, and that was kind of his route. I had to pay for volleyball myself. I had to work a full-time job at 16. I could only afford a year of club that I had to pay for myself in terms of trying to get farther and farther in volleyball, and I never could because I never went to high school and got championships. I never got to be on varsity teams in high school. I was homeschooled all my life. Granted, I was put on a pretty good team, but the coaches never gave me the opportunity on how to recruit in college. They didn't even know themselves at all. Most of them were non-college athletes or who were college athletes, but they never really got very far in the program. And time went on, and I could never catch up with any of the girls because I never had money, in a way, for those opportunities. I could only afford 1 year of club, and it was my senior year. By that time, most girls are recruited nowadays in their sophomore year of high school. Looking back, it was very hard for me to get anywhere in sports, and I had to give it up. Because even though I was offered Penn State, I had a family to take care of. I had obligations, and I understand what those athletes who are trying to find a way out in sports feel like, because I've been there. And what I want to do is eventually down the road, after I've gained experience in coaching and assisting coaches and looking at every side of the sport industry, I want to be able to create a team with opportunities to advance to college without having them fork out so much money and having this pressure of my mom and dad be able to feed the family if I ask for a soccer ball, or if I ask for lacrosse equipment, or if I ask for travel money. Kids should not have to decide on whether they need to or want to accomplish their dreams if they want to play sports. And I think that's what it comes down to. is that they feel like they have to give up their dream because they have an obligation to take care of their family. And it's almost feel like they're betraying them. And I want those girls, especially girls and boys, to have that opportunity to play sports and to go to college and possibly get a scholarship. Again, of course, there's always pros and cons to college athletics, but I feel now that low-income student athletes should have that chance, just as the next kid to be able to beat them in tryouts, even if they didn't have $3,000-$4,000 a month spent on them in training. I want those kids to have those opportunities that I never were able to because of how I grew up. And I don't regret it for a minute. I don't look back and say I hated it. It was hard, but it gave me a realization that sports isn't fair in lots of different ways, and most other people, not everybody, have had similar experiences to where some athletes are very good and they're better than some others, but they just couldn't afford it. And that is not unacceptable, especially when they're a young kid who needs to have physical activity. But my goal is to create a team, create an organization, possibly with somebody else, to where we can have those kids be given opportunity to play a sport. You know, in a way, a low-income club. Like, I know there's lots of finances involved, but I know there are ways to cut out things that are unnecessary, and that maybe funding for equipment, you know, during off season. But I want those kids to have the opportunity that I never had, getting into sports. So that is what I want to do. I know it may not be such a big impact, but it might be a big impact in some kids' lives that feel like they never could be given that opportunity. Thank you.